when you're getting food, you have to get food at scale. You have to get massive amounts of food. Like, say, if you're living in California, if you're living in Los Angeles, which is just an insanely overpopulated place, and you want to get beef, especially if you want to get a cheeseburger from Jack in the Box or something like that. I don't mean to pick on Jack in the Box, Burger King, whatever. Where's that meat coming from? It's not grown from local cows. There are no local cows. I mean, you have to go pretty far out of town to find a farm that raises cows. I mean, you can go like an hour and a half out of town and find some cows, but that's not going to feed everybody. They'll all be gone. There's not enough cows.
A lot of it comes from Australia and New Zealand and Uruguay, and a lot of beef's imported.
Yeah, and a lot of elk. A lot of elk. If you buy elk at a restaurant, most likely you're getting it from New Zealand.
I got a story about imports that I want to say. This is really important. So 25 years ago, when Dad decided to change the way we farmed, he knew that in order to put all the cost that it was going to take to raise animals differently, he had to find a consumer that would pay for that. And so he went, looking for customers, and Publix supermarket was, one of the first ones, Whole Foods very quickly after. And that worked out really well. But the point I want to get to is that when Dad started selling beef, grass-fed beef, to those two grocers, the first pound of American grass-fed beef to be marketed as American grass-fed beef came from White Oak Pastures. And that was not a sustainable option. We can't feed the world. We don't want to feed the world. But fast forward 20 years, and over 85% of the grass-fed beef in the American market is imported product, not raised in America. Isn't that nuts? In 20 years, we've gone from being a very early innovator to, just a meager portion of 15%.
Well, that's true, but it's not the worst part. The worst part is that imported beef is legally labeled product of the USA.
How's that?
If value is added in this country, it's a product of the USA.
What?
And we compete with it every day.
How did they add value?
Ooh, go ahead. No, you go. This is good.
If they grind it, slice it, cut it, package it, label it,
rebox it,
transport it, but the animal, make no mistake, the animal was born, raised, and slaughtered in Uruguay, Australia, New Zealand, or 20 other countries.
Lithuania,
The
Croatia.
United States imports beef from places like Australia, Canada, and much of Latin America. It then runs that beef through USDA inspection, and if it passes, sticks a label on it that reads product of the USA. How dare you?
But honestly,
that's so dirty.
The erosion of this type of farming in America, is completely being exported to another country because we're importing all of this product, and then due to loopholes in labeling, intentionally fraudulent labeling even, selling it as product of the USA.
Then we have to consider, if everybody's really concerned about climate change and CO2 output, think about the amount of freight, just these massive boats that are making their way across this. Did you see this thing they did recently? I was reading this article, and I was actually listening to a podcast. That's what it was initially. But the podcast was about how they changed, I guess it was, I don't know what governing body changed the emission standards for these gigantic freight ships. And when they changed the emission standards, what they found was when they were releasing less pollution into the air, it was doing less of a job of blocking the sun. So the ocean water was getting warmer quicker than they anticipated. So it is having the opposite effect. So they're trying to come up with different methods to mitigate that now. And some of the methods are spraying chemicals in the sky. Some of the methods are spraying ocean water in the sky, which sounds much more natural. Just taking some sort of machine. But then again, what's powering that machine? How is that going to work? What are we doing? Instead of just growing it here.
Should we really be spraying seawater into the atmosphere? Should we really have to do that?
No, but it's just water. That doesn't bother me. That seems like the most organic solution. You're going to take seawater, blow it, but who knows? think about all the pollution that's in the sea now and microplastics in the sea. Does that spray into the atmosphere and that get into people's lungs now and cause a host of new autoimmune issues and cardiovascular issues? I mean, who knows? It's so crazy that we're doing it this way.
So that label change, product of the USA, even though it's imported, occurred in 2015, I think, 15 or 16. And it was a reaction to the fact that some of us had gone into the grass-fed beef business and were doing pretty good with it. We had some really good years in the early 2000s. And then, of course, when they were allowed to bring the imported beef in as product of the USA, the margin structure fell dramatically.
Of course. Dirty.
Dirty.
Everything is dirty. When
Well,
you get money involved and stuff like that and decisions that affect everybody, someone always does something slimy.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think either of us want to debate product quality or the fact that it is from another country. You know, the issue that we have is that it's being sold under the guise of product of the USA.
Right. So if you're a person who wants to buy all American made stuff and American raised beef and you're like, oh, great, product of the USA, I feel like I'm doing a good thing.
It was like the textile
Helping out
industry.
farmers.
The textile industry's been exported. The automotive industry's been exported.
Yes.
But at least in those situations, it's pretty clear what you're getting. You look in the back of your shirt and it's a
Right.
product of not America.
I started working recently with a company called Origin that's in Maine, and
I'm
make
crazy about them.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything American made.
They're great.
Every thread, all the cloth. There's one part of their boots that they have not been able to source in America, and it's sourced in Latin America. That's the only piece.
But I bet they talk about it.
They do, very openly. But they make hunting gear, they make outdoor stuff, they make jiu-jitsu gis, they make fantastic handmade boots. And if you want to support an American-made company, Origin's great. But, you know, they have a limited amount of, they can only make so much of it. You know, they have one major factory that's doing it in Maine, and it's all people working on it by hand, and it's pretty cool. But it's, you know, it's limited.
Yeah, we're not saying that beef from Australia is bad.
No, it's definitely
I'm
not.
not saying that. There's some great beef from Australia, I'm sure, and Uruguay and everywhere else.
Yes.
Just tell the damn truth about
Tell
it.
the damn truth.
We had a really awkward situation that occurred last week. A company who is owned by friends of ours that we care about was buying some grinds from us, some trim actually, making ground beef out of. And Jenni was renegotiating the deal with them last week. And it came out that they were importing some beef. What happened is they showed her the projections of how much more they were selling. It was just way up. And they told her how much that they were going to buy from her. And it was it was flat.